Okay, we're going to bring this meeting to order. It's our full authority meeting tonight, June 21st. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest?
I'm interested.
I have the very last item under the section 28 as it pertains to an application by Central Elgin regarding a lifeguard tower. Remind people, board members, staff, guests, and members of the public are reminded that the full authority board meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the authority's website along with the official written minutes. As such, comments and opinions expressed may be published, and any comments expressed by individual board members, guests, and the general public are their own and do not represent the opinions or comments of the full authority or the board of directors. The recorded video of the full authority meeting is not considered the official record of that meeting. The official record of the full authority meeting shall consist solely of the minutes approved by the full authority. Tonight we have one delegation. We have Jessica Fitty here, who is a public health inspector from the St. Thomas Elgin Health Unit. Welcome, Jessica, and Jessica is going to give us an overview of the Lyme disease program.
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about what we're doing at the health unit for Lyme disease. So yes, I work as a public health inspector and I'm the vector-borne disease program lead. So I oversee the West Nile virus and the Lyme disease surveillance, but I'm just going to talk about the Lyme disease today. So just very quickly, Lyme disease is caused by bacteria, Borrelia burgdorferi, and it's spread through the bite of an infected deer tick. It's only the deer ticks that can carry Lyme disease, and not all of the deer ticks will have it. Lyme disease symptoms vary in each person. The first stage is the very recognizable bullseye rash that about 70% of people will develop, and then it also has fevers, chills, fatigue, and headaches. If it's untreated, it can then progress into the later stages of the disease, but there is antibiotics available for treatment. So in terms of our program, we have three main components. The first is tick surveillance, and that's what I'm responsible for. Our programs are mandated by the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, and then Public Health Ontario provides us the technical support for how to implement the programs. So we do a passive surveillance program as recommended by Public Health Ontario. Any person that brings a tick to the health unit, we will identify it, and then from there, if it's a dog tick, which the majority of our ticks that are submitted to us are dog ticks, we'll know that the person isn't at risk for Lyme disease transmission because they don't carry the disease. If it is a deer tick, we will then have the person follow with their physician to determine if there's a need for antibiotic treatment. And then for any deer ticks that are submitted to us, we'll submit them to the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg, where it's then tested for the presence of Lyme disease in the tick itself. The only thing with that is it's for surveillance purposes only. It takes at least 2 months to get those results back, so it can't be used for diagnostic purposes. We just use it for surveillance at that point. People are also able to bring the ticks to their healthcare providers. A lot of times if it's attached to them, we aren't able to remove them. So the physician will remove it and then submit it to the lab directly from there. We get all of that information as well. It's de-identified, but we at least know what's happening in our community for tick populations and if they're going to be deer ticks or dog ticks and the numbers and if any of them are positive. And it's the same for us. If we're not able to identify a tick, we'll send it to the lab. They'll identify it for us and then we'll follow up with the person so they can know their risk of Lyme disease transmission. So so far this year, we haven't had any positive deer ticks. Last year, we didn't have any either. But the year before that, we did have one positive deer tick that was in our area. Last year, though, we had our first lab-confirmed, locally acquired case of Lyme disease. So unfortunately, there wasn't a tick available for us, but the person was lab-confirmed to have Lyme disease. And we did a media release following that information. But so far this year, we haven't had any positive deer ticks, but we have been getting a lot of dog ticks submitted to us, which is good because it means that people are aware of the process of submitting them to the health unit, and then we can do that surveillance from there. So along with the tick surveillance, Public Health Ontario, they publish a risk map every year that has the different areas of Ontario that are considered to be risk areas for Lyme disease. It is on our website and on their website. I printed a few copies that I'm going to leave. So even though we aren't a risk area right now, we are very aware of the fact that there are two risk areas, or two endemic areas, around us. There's Rondo Provincial Park to the west, and then Turkey Point and Long Point Provincial Parks are endemic for Lyme disease. And we do know that our clients travel, everyone goes camping, they're up in the pinery, places like that that are unfortunately endemic for Lyme disease. So we really want the information to be out there for our public when they're going out to be aware of ticks. And
Do you want me to distribute those
sure,
for you?
thank you. So that map is updated yearly by Public Health Ontario, and it's on, like I said, their website, and we have a copy of it as well, that people can look at it and know where the risk areas are for Lyme disease. The second part of our Lyme disease program is case management. In Ontario, Lyme disease is a reportable disease, so the health unit's notified of any Lyme disease cases, and then a follow-up is done by our clinical disease team. Unfortunately, I don't know a lot about the testing methods and clinical follow-up and antibiotic treatment because it's our nurses that follow up on that. But if anyone ever has any questions about any of the testing procedures or anything like that, let me know and I can get the information to our clinical disease team. But they do the reportable disease follow-up, and then they also do a lot of work with our local physicians and healthcare providers about Lyme disease treatment and testing. And same with our medical officer health. She works with our local physicians just to keep them up to date on Lyme disease testing. And then the final part of our program is public education. So, sorry, I didn't bring enough handouts. I also have our TikTok pamphlet. This one is available at the health unit, and I'm happy to bring them out to anyone else that would like them. It's very detailed. It has a lot of really good information about ticks, tick habitat, clinical manifestations of the disease, treatment options, tick habitat. All of that information is in this pamphlet. Sorry.
That's where they came in the big bucks.
So we have that. And that's usually what we provide to people when they come into the health unit with their ticks and they're looking for more information. It has everything you could ever want to know about ticks in there. But then new this year, which I'm very excited to share, is our tick tips poster. And this we are putting up, we've done a lot of outreach to the conservation authorities. I know Elizabeth has taken some of them. Our hiking trails, hunting groups, campgrounds, provincial parks. We're putting up all of these signs out in the community because we want people to be aware of Lyme disease and tick prevention when they're out in the field. So we're doing a lot of outreach and getting them posted. We have plastic ones and paper ones that we've been putting out. So it just has information about how to avoid tick bites. So wearing long pants that are light colored, tucking your pants into your socks, wearing an insect repellent with DEET. And then what to do after you come in from these outdoor areas. So doing a tick check, what you want to do is you come in and shower because it will remove any loose ticks, and then towel off will again remove any of the loose ticks. And then do a tick check. So you want to check any warm places on your body for any ticks. A deer tick needs to be attached for at least 24 hours to be able to transmit the bacteria. So it's really important that a tick is found right away and then removed right away and brought into the health unit or to a healthcare provider to identify it. Unfortunately, some people, they pick them off and throw them in the garbage, and then we don't know what it was that they've had on them. So we aren't able to do a proper risk assessment to know their risk of Lyme disease transmission. So bringing it in and having us identify it or having a doctor send it away for identification is very important. And that's on here as well, removing ticks, so using tweezers, not to put anything onto the tick, just use tweezers, grab it close to the skin and pull it straight out. And then to bring it into the health unit, and then to just keep an eye out for any general symptoms. So that's the poster, and this is the main thing that I wanted to show off today. What I'm interested in hearing about is if there's any places that I should be putting them up that I maybe haven't thought of, we've, like I said, talked with the conservation authorities, the provincial parks, the Elgin hiking group. Central Elgin has new hiking trails. We've given some to them, and there's a local hunting group that we've done some outreach. The paper ones, they're the same, they're just not waterproof. We put them up in the public schools and the private schools and all of our trailer parks and places like that where people may be coming in contact with nature. Is there anywhere else that anyone can think of that could maybe use
Yeah, the Wildlife Management Center in just west of Fingal on Fingal Line. That's about a 750 acre site with a very heavy deer population.
Oh, okay. Do you know who runs that?
Yeah, Elgin County Stewardship Council, right, I think is that. There's a couple of local people that look after a lot of the maintenance there, but the Stewardship Council is the main, should be the contact, I think.
Okay.
So are you hitting all the other smaller, I don't want to call them conservation area, but trails that are sort of mapped out? I was thinking Hawks Cliff has a few walking areas,
Oh, yes.
and I know out, where's the camp, the faith-based camp, it's out West Elgin.
Harvester, or Bethel Park?
Yeah,
Pierce Williams.
Pierce Williams.
Pierce Williams, that
Because-
one, yes.
Yeah, so you got that. But I was thinking those types of places where there's a lot of children and that.
Yeah.
What are you doing around the playground areas?
In the schools or in the parks?
No, in the park, so just playground areas. So I'm thinking in the city, we have
Mhm.
like Optimus Park and all those parks, right?
Yeah, I have given a bunch to Catherine Spratley and she's putting them up. And then I've just, as I give them out, I say, tell me how many you'd like now and then call me as you find more places where you need them. Because even Elmer, all of their parks interconnect, so
Yes.
they needed to figure out where to put the signs where people could see them and access
The
them.
only other place I can think of is West Elgin. Along some of Highway number 3, there's some of those stops for, what do they call them, breaks?
Oh, the
Commercial
rest.
break parks.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of those, and I don't know that they actually have a name. They're just stops,
rest
right?
areas.
Rest stops. But they're all heavily wooded areas, and
Yes.
there's a lot of traffic goes in and out of those.
You're right, I can picture the one that's
Yeah.
surrounded by trees on the
Yep.
other side.
And
There's
I
also
think
a
there's-
Girl Guide camp just off of Highbury, Camp Orinda.
Yes.
So that'd be another one. I'm not sure if the Scouts are still operating Camp Timken. I don't
I'm
think
not
they
sure
are.
if they are.
I heard it was closing down, but I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
What about the George White camping area just on the north side of London? Is that anything to do with the city or?
Don't know what it is.
It's on the back side near, not far from Fanshawe.
That's been shut down.
Is it shut down?
So if somebody needs a poster, let's say there's some folks that we think of something after we've left here, is there a contact for you to?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so,
Right there.
there you go.
That was a
Thanks,
really good
Jessica.
segue.
Right, so if anybody has any other suggestions, just contact Jessica at the
Yeah.
health unit.
And any questions at any time, like I said, I don't know honestly very much about the clinical side of things because it is our communicable disease team that does that follow-up, but send me questions, I'm happy to pass them along, and definitely if there's any places you can think of for this poster. I'm also interested in any feedback, if people like it or wish there was maybe different information on it or more information, I'd love to hear that as well.
Do you want all ticks, so something creepy happened the other night, my girlfriend was sleeping and the dog was in bed with her and then she found it on her face. Do you want all those ticks? Like I would assume it's a dog tick, but
Yeah.
are you looking for people to bring in all ticks that they find?
So if it's on an animal, it needs to go to a vet because there's a whole different set of diseases
Okay.
that can affect animals. In terms of a tick just crawling on someone, there's no risk to that person, but we
Right.
have had quite a few people who are quite concerned because they're finding a significant number of them on their property. I'm happy to have a look at them and just put their mind at ease for what it is.
Okay.
But really, there's no
Take
health
'em to
risk
the
that
vet.
doesn't- definitely for the animals, yes.
And what do you think about those little hooks that they're selling? Are they appropriate for taking ticks off or not? I see them everywhere,
Yeah.
the little tiny plastic.
I'd have to look at them and know. Some of them are, I think there might be some sort of a label or something on them, but
They
there
look
are
like a little fork.
Yeah, you can get tick removal kits, and I've heard that they work, but I don't know all of them. That
You
are
don't
out
know
there.
whether they work.
Yeah, we just recommend tweezers because we know for sure that they will work if you just pull it close to the skin and just right up.
Jessica, do you have any spare posters with you?
I do.
Can you give me 2 posters and a couple more of these of your brochure pamphlets?
I don't have any more. Oh, I do have some.
You can have mine.
Okay.
Do you want paper or plastic posters?
Papers indoors,
Send them.
that's great.
How many would you like?
2.
Two?
Marcel, did you have a
I
question?
did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Jessica, I'm curious, the announcement you made last year with respect to the individual that got Lyme's disease, do we have any history as to how that, have they grown out of it? I know that for some people it's quite almost like a lifetime disease, for others
Yeah.
it's short term. Do we know any history?
I don't, unfortunately, because it is the communicable disease team that would do that case follow-up, so I wasn't involved in any of the clinical side of the things. I did the follow-up to just determine if there had been any travel, because that's how we ruled out if it was a locally acquired or if there had been any exposure elsewhere, but I unfortunately just don't know too many patients.
But in most cases, it's just a period of time that they have this and they become healthy again?
I don't know that specifically, and I think it would depend on the time of treatment, how soon after the exposure. I think there's more factors that go into that, but I can get some information for you though if you'd like. Send me an email and I'll pass that on to the communicable disease team.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions for Jessica? Only board members. So,
You can talk later.
My email's there.
and emails there. So thank you again, Jessica, for coming out and giving us, I think it's very timely. Obviously, this time of year, it becomes very important to people to know about this. So again, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate that.
Okay, next minutes of meetings. Okay, full authority meeting. Was there any questions or comments regarding the minutes? Seeing none, we have a mover and a seconder to receive. Linda, Max. No further questions, all in favor? That's carried. So we're into matters arising.
Actually, Joe, I think I can get it from here. Mr. Chair, if I can just add a few things to the project tracking and the looking ahead to the May-June media report. You see on the screen there just a picture of the portable accessible lift that are now available at Rose Lake Whitaker and Dalewood Pools, and those were made possible by some funding by the Enabling Accessibility Fund. This news was shared on Facebook and it's reached over 3,000 people through about 15 shares on Facebook. So it's just evidence of the need and the excitement of having those pool lifts in the community. Staff also participated in a really unique event locally. It was called A Blessing to Us. It was Monsignor Morrison School, led by a very enthusiastic principal there. The entire school took the train down to Port Stanley, where they had a parade from the train terminal down to the lake. The kids made the fish that you can see at the left-hand side of the screen there. And it was just really a celebration of water in which they were blessed they blessed Lake Erie. And just thanked the water for their involvement in their lives. So it was a really great and unique ceremony and experience, and KCCA staff were involved by providing the students with some information on source water protection and how locally water is important to us. Joe was instrumental in leading the KCC's involvement in Project Hope locally, so the local developer and the whole community rallied around having a house built basically in 24 hours with the proceeds going to the Moran family.
Did you swing a hammer, Joe?
I didn't get to, no. No, sir.
And then finally, the new Dan Patterson sign has been installed down at Dan Patterson Conservation Area, so if you get a chance to go down there, some great reading that Louisa has prepared for the public as well. And all the trees were in the ground by May 31st, and lots of events that both Jeff and Betsy partook, had community plants and things of that nature as well. So that is a report on project tracking and the June media report if there are any questions from members.
Any questions? I will say I attended the one at Port Stanley. It was a great event to see all those kids. Very excited when they came off the train, there's no doubt about that. Talking to them, I believe it was 80% had never been on a train. It was another 30% had never been to the lake. So for them it was quite an experience. I was shocked that kids from this area had never been to the lake, but it happens. So yeah, it was a very unique experience for sure, and you're talking about how they blessed the water, but then they took water from the lake and they blessed everyone there too. So it was quite a unique project for them, quite an exciting and entertaining principle, to say the least. Linda?
Just going back to the accessibility piece, I'm really pleased to see it there. Thank you for doing that. I think that, I know it took some effort to get it there, but I'm really pleased to see it. Do we have a mechanism to sort of doing tracking on who's using it and what people are thinking about it and how many, maybe it's bringing more people that never were able to, come before. So are we doing something to sort of track that?
Mr. Chair, it's through to Linda. How to consider it, but I think it's a great idea. The pools haven't opened yet, so I'll speak with Louisa and we can get something in place where the lifeguards can be tracked.
Nothing too
outdoors.
formal, just something that sort of we track the numbers of people using it. I'd like to hear people's feedback too, whether they find the piece of equipment easy to use, that kind of thing. So I'd be interested in that. I think it's a really good investment, and I'm just really pleased to see it there. It was like watching them put things for people to get to the beach. I think that's really wonderful. A lot of positive feedback and more accessibility that we provide. So it's a good news story. I'm really pleased.
Bill?
Yeah, I don't know, Mr. Chair, if this is the proper time, but I just wanted to acknowledge the young lady at Delwood who received a letter for her work with the police in the search, and just she did a great job. I just think it should be mentioned. So.
Yeah, I think we all saw the emails on that. That's quite a great thing that she was doing. If there's nothing else, then we'll move on to watershed conditions report.
Mr. Chair, I don't necessarily have anything to add to the watershed conditions report. Obviously, we have lots of water. At this point, there's no concerns about low water in the watershed. I did forward a link out to members today, an interview that Jennifer Dow did with CTV News London. It ran last night at 6 o'clock. Just interest on the high levels, lake levels, and the impact locally. I believe the Times Journal will also be doing an article coming up as well on the same topic.
Okay, any other questions? Motion to receive.
If I could just have a motion to receive those first 3 items.
So for the project tracking, the media report and watershed conditions, and mover second, Marcel. Ian? All in favor? That's carried. And then we have the Conservation Authorities Act review.
Mr. Chair, I'm just going to take a few minutes, with your permission, just to highlight the Conservation Authorities Act review. It's one of the main reasons why your package was so thick this month. But I did try to share as much information as it was becoming available to us. Bill 139 was introduced on May 30th, 2017, which included proposed amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act. There will be 2 more readings in the legislature, and right now it looks like it will be back to the legislature, obviously after the summer break in the fall. There's always a possibility that it would still be deferred to a standing committee for a clause-by-clause review. But overall, I think the amendments that have been proposed are very positive and encompasses a lot of things that certainly Conservation Ontario and the conservation authorities have been asking for over the past 2 years, as well as I think recognizes a lot of the feedback that was received from stakeholders throughout the process as well. There are a number of amendments that are enabling, which basically means the details will be worked out. The details will be worked out through regulations and policies moving forward. To that end, MNRF did release an accompanying document which was included in your packages, which really details how they feel how things will be modernized and that policy framework moving forward. There's adjusting in that document, the one I'm referring to, the exact title, Conserving Our Future, a Modernized Conservation Authorities Act, which was included in your packages. So they're looking at an implementation basically over the next 4 years. Once that act is approved in the legislature. There's one time-bound commitment that will come about, and that is that the CAs must have updated bylaws within 1 year of the enactment of the Act. So CO has entered into an MOU with MNRF to assist CAs in that regard, and will begin work on that. Heather and I will be attending a Conservation Ontario meeting on Monday, the General Council meeting, where this will be obviously an important discussion point. But as I mentioned, I think the amendments that are put forward are positive. Just a couple of highlights in terms of MNRF's document. They're looking at strengthening oversight and accountability. So the appointment processes for the board of directors. So things like setting terms of appointments and matching the terms of appointments to your municipal appointments on council as well, which has always been a difficult scenario to get around. Updating Conservation Authority governance practices. So again, that's updating, having CAs update their bylaws in terms of best management practices, and I think a lot of CAs have or are already moving in that direction, but things like codes of conduct as well. Just confirming expectations for authority restructuring, so just giving a little bit more guidance around the whole amalgamation issue and what needs to be put in place before 2 or more authorities can amalgamate. Increasing clarity and consistency, again, in the programs and services of the CA. So some things that have been mentioned are just clarifying the roles of CAs around our programs. So which programs are mandatory and which programs are we entering into through relationships with our municipalities, and clarifying those expectations of those programs and services that we are delivering for our municipalities through establishments of things like MOUs and collaborate and enter into agreements with other partners.
Just before, because it's a long list,
Yeah.
may I just ask a little clarification on the amalgamation of CAs and that whole portfolio that they're looking at? Is there anything that they're suggesting that might trigger the province to both encourage or maybe ask CAs to get together, or is it strictly done by a voluntary basis? And is there a size that they're looking at where they want to see us? Because we're fairly small, right? And we have a couple of rounds that are fairly small.
Mr. Chair, to Linda, I haven't seen anything in that regards. It's more about just setting things like the requirements for municipalities who's considering that, what they would have to do in terms of consulting with the public before they were, or as they were considering amalgamation. what public notices would have to be put out, that the public notices could actually be posted online and not through newspapers. So it's more of the process
So
of
no
how to go about,
incentives or anything like
but
that?
nothing that I've seen in terms of incentives for amalgamation.
And just quickly, just on that same vein, the one around the provincial funding levels, and I know that we have some mandatory programs, but are they looking at adjusting them so that we're actually in cost recovery as opposed to what we do now? Because that formula that you presented to us a while back was very convoluted and didn't make a lot of sense in some areas. So I'm still a little concerned about where they're going with the funding model. Have they given any, or is that part of what you're going to hear this coming week?
Well, I think, Mr. Chair, to Linda, I think that's part of the discussions that will come out after it's actually enacted in terms of the regulation and policies. Right now, in terms of like modernizing the funding mechanisms, which is one of the broad categories in the MNRF document, there's nothing concrete there. It's language like we're going to work with municipalities to update what costs are apportioned. We're going to explore options for updating provincial funding, so in assessing whether it's adequate or not. There's not the meat, I guess, that you want there. That's just basically saying we're open to the discussion, but what is actually being offered, I haven't seen those details yet. So
Well, that's a bit unfortunate. And I'm hoping and I'm encouraging you to talk about that on Monday if they don't raise it. Because in other jurisdictions, so David and I sit on the health unit board, and I mean, cost recovery is a huge issue. It's, you're mandated to do certain things, and I don't disagree with that, but the cost recovery is an issue, right? So I'm hoping that even if they don't bring it up, that I would encourage you and the chair to bring it up. Because it is a concern. It's a concern.
Mr. Chair, definitely funding was a key topic throughout the stakeholder relationships, engagements and things. And I think Conservation Ontario, the initial preparation for the meeting on Monday, they're very positive. I don't think there's anything that we've identified yet that we would necessarily categorize as negative. I think the possibility for more discussion is there. One other nice thing to see out of the documents coming out was this idea of a multi-agency committee, so that the realization that Conservation Ontario was really pushed the point that CAs are no longer just doing programs that are mandated by Ministry of Natural Resources. So we're delving into programs that have been asked to enact programs on behalf of a variety of different ministries. And so bringing all those ministries to the table for that funding discussion, or a look at how the funds are allocated right now and reallocating them in a more proper way, I think are all tagged for discussion moving forward. And over since the 1997 when the cuts were first introduced, I think that's the first kind of really positive thing that we've seen in terms for funding.
But that's 10 years ago. Like, it's time to, they need a better mechanism for review processes. 10 years is way too long.
All right, continue.
I think a lot of the things we've touched on. The other item was enhanced collaboration and engagement, increased stakeholder outreach and engagement. There's mention in the M&R document of setting a minimum standard for that type of engagement to guide the authorities moving forward. Increased coordination between the ministries. This is what I was just mentioning in terms of a multi-ministry working group between the CAs and the province. And then the last thing I was just mentioning with Linda was the modernizing of the funding mechanism. So again, nothing concrete there and how it would play out, but definitely a recognition that further discussions have to be undertaken. So all of these items will be discussed at Conservation Ontario on Monday. CEO is basically encouraging through a draft recommendation for that council to consider is to encourage the legislature to move forward in the fall with the amendments to the act. So just basically an FYI of where we are in the process now, and certainly I'll continue to share information as it comes forward. But all in all, I think a positive step forward.
Any further questions? Bill?
So Conservation Materials taking the lead on behalf of all the CAs. Is there any recommendation for individual CAs to do anything on their own? Or is it a collaborative, everything through Conservation Material? Didn't really say anything like that in there,
In terms of commenting back on the...
on anything or certain things that might apply to specific birds or anything, or just the overall package. I don't know, maybe it might be too early for that.
Yeah, Conservation Ontario really has been taking the lead. I didn't bring anything for your recommendation or consideration tonight. I think we can count on Conservation Ontario to lead that. And as I said, through the preliminary review of it, I don't see anything negative in moving forward with that. And a lot of the nitty-gritty discussions will come out after the act is passed and we move on to the regulations and the policy developments.
Anything further? Certainly there's a lot of information there to digest, but I would certainly say it's good to see that they're moving forward. This is something we've been asking for a long time, ever since the mid-90s, late 90s when they defunded us, but left the responsibility there. So now it's just a matter of paying attention to the details.
Need a motion to receive?
Please. Okay. No? All in favor? It's carried. And we have the Ontario Low Water Response Program.
Mr. Chair, this was just an FYI, again, no real recommendation for the board members to consider, but I did feel like we needed to share, just bring you up to speed on the Ontario Low Water Response Program. This is a program the authority's been participating in for about the last 10 years. Traditionally, we've received about $5,000 in funding from M&R to support the Ontario Low Water Response Program. So this is the program where we're monitoring precipitation and water levels in the watershed. Once they reach a certain level, we would warn residents that we're entering into a level 1 and ask them to voluntarily reduce their water consumption, their water use to help combat that. And traditionally, we've received about $5,000 in funding. Late last year, the ministry advised that they were reconsidering the funding of the program. And consequently, we received only $1,900 in funding for the 2016 program, mainly because the funding structure was altered to really focus in 2016 on education and communication activities. I know relative to the discussion we just had on funding, it's another example of where funding is being clawed back, but there's no real clawback of the program or the services that we're providing. In speaking with Jen and I both believe that the program is still a valid program for the community and one in which we can share information with the community, and it's something that we'd like to continue. What I wanted to mention tonight is basically what we are still awaiting a response back from the ministry in terms of funding for this year or the funding or the overall program. But right now staff are continuing as business as usual, but just cognizant of the amount of funding that we are receiving for the program. And certainly if we ran into scenarios like the province did towards the east last summer, where they were basically in drought conditions, we'd certainly be coming back to the board and reevaluating how involved we are in the program.
Questions? Linda?
So in the last paragraph, you talked about staff doing collection and analysis. Are we doing some sort of a tracking mechanism? So let's say this review of the funding happens so that we actually know how much time is being spent or required versus what they're giving us funding for, because I think you've stipulated that it really only covers two elements, which is education and communication. So there's obviously a gap there. You know, it would be nice to be, it's almost like shovels ready, right? You have some sort of an analysis already for them if they say how much time is being spent. Are we able to do that at minimal cost?
Mr. Chair, yes, we track, Jen already tracks that time, so
Yeah.
it's in place.
These gauges that they're talking about, is that our responsibility to replace them and all that?
The stream gauges would be part of, yes, but there's funding from other pools to support that. So we're already collecting this information as part of our flood forecasting and warning program, and then sharing it through this program as well. That, thanks.
Anything further? Motion to receive. Bill? Rob? All in favor? That's carried. Correspondence.
Mr. Chair, there's no new correspondence this evening other than what was put out in the advanced packages. Just a couple of highlights. The notice from Hydro One in regards to our usage out at Lake Whitaker and the possibility of being reclassified to demand usage. I've got my terminology correct. And it also notes in there that if that did occur, we could see increases to our hydro bills for Lake Whitaker in the area of about 35%. Now, just to caution you, that's not all our hydro at Lake Whitaker, that's just 1 meter. And what the issue is here is that it's warning us that our average monthly peak demand was more than 50 kilowatts. So Joe has actually been doing some great analysis on the numbers that are available to us. Hydro One, basically, hydro at Lake Whitaker has always been a concern because some of the monthly bills are estimates, and so they're not actuals. And it complicates things when, during the summer months, our hydro usage is high or relatively high compared to October and November when there's nothing. So what's happened in the past is October, because they're using numbers from October and, or say the summer months, they're estimating really high for the months that we're not using it. And as a result, a number of years ago, we actually had staff begin to read our meters and report it to Hydro One. So thankfully, we have years and years of data that we can actually go back to. And what Joe's been able to do is go back through that and determine what our kilowatt usage has been during that period. And when he's averaging it out, we're actually below the 50 kilowatt that they're suggesting where we're at. And I think a lot of it has to do with that estimating that's throwing things off. So Joe has a new contact at Hydro One, and he's dealing with them. We have basically 6 months to make our case that we're below the 50 kilowatts before we would consider being reclassified to general service demand. The other thing we'll be looking at, obviously, well, we feel right now that the analysis that Joe's done is that, well, we're below the 50 kilowatt threshold. Obviously, there's still ways that we can conserve hydro in the park. And so similarly to Dalewood, we'll be doing communication campaigns with all the campers, seasonal and transients in that regard. So if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I guess the only thing is, I think what we've realized is Lake Whitaker is read on a quarterly basis and estimated in between. So when we talk about kilowatt hours, it's not really a big issue because when they do their read on the next quarter, it'll make up any errors within the estimates. But when you look at the demand is actually the maximum amount of energy used at one time. So when they estimate it for that month, the next month when they go and read it, they really can't correct the estimate. So what we're finding is the postseason, they're estimating too high on the demand, and it's bringing up our annual average stats. So we've certainly raised those concerns to them. We've also raised the fact that we're taking these monthly readings and submitting them to Hydro One, but those readings aren't being recognized in the invoices. So what we have now is an individual who we're sending the meter readings to each month, and she's going to make sure they get recognized in the monthly billings. As well, she's going to make sure, now that she's aware that we close for the season on September 30th, she's going to make sure they do a read at the end of September and reset the demand. So fingers crossed, based on the information we see, coming January, I don't expect a reclassification, but if there is appeal mechanisms that are available to us to present our information and challenge it.
Okay.
Dave, I appreciate Joe's comments, and Joe and I have been having some correspondence in recent days, and I'd be prepared to support Joe in any way with regard to it, based on my experience as an old Ontario Hydro employee, because I know those issues in demand can be a problem.
I appreciate that.
Joe, just on the incentives that they're offering, it says on, I guess it's page 76 of 149, it says we're offering incentives to every type of business to help save energy. We have a lot of campers that bring in older refrigerators, those kinds of things. So there is an education component, but would we ever consider not allowing fridges 20 years or older coming into our campsites? We're trying to be more energy efficient. It's also helpful for the campers, but we do know that they tend to bring in outdated things, right?
Yeah, and we've looked at those. Historically, there used to be separated rates for those types of things, and then with recent increases in the past, they bulked them into a flat rate. Now that we're starting to look at the meters and consider those, they're paying for their own energy, so that I think what we'll see is they'll be a little more cognizant to use more high energy type uses. But we are aware of that and monitoring it. The incentives that Hydro One speaks to is they have lots of incentives about changing the light bulbs in the buildings, and they'll pay for certain costs associated with that. And we actually participated in that in 2010. They're now offering another incentive because they're now promoting another type of more of an LED light bulb. The issue is that we have to replace all of the fixtures. And when we've gone through the audit, the cost for us to replace the fixtures as opposed to the savings we receive on the energy in the end, it just doesn't balance out. So staff are constantly looking at those types of incentives and some other ones that we may bring for consideration on board in the future, but.
So I'd be interested in, like, we changed all our street lights in the city of St. Thomas, right? It's considerable savings, and I can't imagine we wouldn't be in a similar situation here. There are no other partners that maybe we could tag into for changing those kinds of fixtures?
Well, I think what we've kind of looked at now is to do them all at once. The cost to do it and the return based on the savings we've received is very little. What staff has started doing now is, as they need repairs or replacement, we're making them one-off changes in each of the buildings as we go through it. Like several of Lake Whitaker's dusted on lights have already been transferred to the new LED system, and we are upgrading them as we go. For the most part, both campgrounds, have a swimming pool facility, a gatehouse, and then about 4 washing facilities. So it's primarily the lights that we deal with for our energy consumption. And recently, with the swimming pool upgrades at Lake Whitaker, we've put in more high energy efficient pumps that we can control the amperage at different times. So we are implementing different mechanisms to try and control the energy usage that's in there through these types of programs.
And just to throw another kinker in there, the green energy, there might be some incentives. I don't know whether solar panels are feasible in some of our more remote areas or not, but.
Yeah, so the electrician who's doing the meters for us at Dalewood we've had some preliminary discussions with them, and they're preparing some numbers and some different considerations for us to look at, which may be viable for things like Lake Whitaker. It's more of a solar power energy program that, rather than selling the energy back to the province, what it actually does is it turns your meter back as it generates energy. So in a situation like us, when we're closed for 6 months, that meter could just be generating backwards, and we can balance that out. So we are in preliminary talks and gathering some of that information for considering long-term plans.
Because I know some areas are really taking advantage of that right now, and they're seeing substantial savings. So, good.
Anything else in correspondence? Are you moving or second to receive? Linda, Max? All in favor? That's carried. And next we have our financial statements.
Just to ask my usual question, are there any concerns from the manager?
No.
Sorry,
That's all?
if, I assume we might have a wee bit of a discussion or maybe some information about the phosphorus loading and the letter that was sent. We just accepted it through correspondence, but is there any information from staff that's more than what we're reading there?
No, that was just a comment back to the ADR posting, and we'll wait to hear the next steps.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Anything else on financials? If not,
Motion to receive.
proceed. Seconder? Bill? No further questions? All in favor? It's carried. Under new business, we have the Kettle Creek Clean Water Initiative proposals. Is that first? Verbal report.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Betsy had hoped to be here this evening, but her schedule didn't allow it. They're up at the Trees Ontario conference tonight. We wanted these two proposals to be considered by the board because we don't meet again until August, and it's the hope that these projects would be underway this summer. So I am going to attempt to be Betsy tonight, and if questions do arise, she's available by text. I can reach her and get you the response hopefully before the end of the meeting, but I hope to be able to present these to you tonight. So the first project up for your consideration of funding this evening is Project 1702. It's a wetland creation. The total estimated project cost is $14,000, $360. Their grant request from the Kettle Creek Clean Water Initiative is $3,000. An additional funding has been confirmed from Ducks Unlimited for $7,180. With the rest of the funds being contributed by the landowner at this time. This is a 50-acre farm located in Thames Center. It has highly sloping land with erosion issues. You can kind of see the top picture gives you the perspective of the slopes that they're dealing with on this property. The landowner is slowly restoring portions of the property and adding various habitat, including tree planting and turtle nesting places throughout the property. A wetland was previously constructed with Ducks Unlimited in the middle of the property. This proposal is for 2 wetland cells to be created on the south side of the property, totaling about 4 to 5 acres. So this is a great opportunity to restore some wetland on the landscape. The land surrounding the lands will be retired and planted into tall grass prairie. The wetland excavation is going to be completed by a local contractor, and Ducks Unlimited's wetland contractor will oversee the work to ensure that it's done to the specs of the design and properly installed. So again, the recommendation or the ask this evening from board members is to approve a total of $3,000 for that project.
I'll move that.
Al? Second. Questions or comments?
This is on Gladstone Road.
I can't say.
Sounds like a great project.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried.
Mr. Chair, the second project up for consideration this evening is 1703. This is a tall grass prairie planting. The total estimated project cost is $10,000, and the grant request before you this evening is for $3,000. It's 5 acres of tall grass prairie being planted by a local developer in the new subdivision in St. Thomas. The developer is looking to naturalize a 30-meter Elgin-area primary water supply system easement. As you can see, it's outlined in the green below, and then as well as another area from the stormwater pond on the site. An additional 8 to 9 acres will also be planted this fall or next spring in other areas. These plantings will be incorporated into a trail network and have educational signage as well. The site is to be drill seeded by Ontario nativeScapes in most areas. Some broadcast spreading may be required around areas of the stormwater pond. The site is to be sprayed within 2 weeks of planting to control weed species, and the developer is prepared to mow at the recommended height as needed to control weeds and woody debris.
Questions or comments on this project? So,
Through you, Mr. Chair, I didn't hear what the benefits are.
The benefits of a tall grass prairie? Basically, it would be, it's a unique natural habitat for certain species.
So, if I just, I guess, surmise my thoughts, looks like, I might be wrong, but it looks like a stormwater pond, and they're just looking for a buffer for it.
Mr. Chair, to Marcel, this is above and beyond any requirements that the developer would have to do on the area, so it is enhancing habitat that we don't have a lot of in the watershed.
Linda?
So being very familiar with this piece of property, I'm going to tag on to a little bit of what Marcel's saying. I don't disagree with it, and I think it's actually, you're right, they're going above and beyond. I guess my concern would be location of road is right there. Should we have wildlife start to live there, those kinds of things? What's the safeguard then for the road buffers? Because the road is completely surrounding half of it. I would worry about traffic, period. You know, I've seen it sort of located in the middle of a subdivision, but this is right on the corner of a very, very busy intersection. I'm not sure what the wisdom is of doing it right there, but I'm sure there is, Elizabeth. I'm not disagreeing with the concept. It's just the location gives me a little bit of concern.
That stormwater pond would have been approved through site plan.
Yeah, but that's when it was a stormwater pond, not necessarily.
It's still a stormwater pond. The question is, do you want to allow tall grass prairie planting around it?
So
the
that's,
question.
and that's going to generate wildlife, it just will. So what's the protection buffer to the road at that point?
Mr. Chair, I'm not qualified to really answer the questions of the impact of wildlife on the road, but I would say a tall grass prairies isn't going to sustain a deer population. The reason why we're planting a tall grass prairie is for songbirds. You know, the smaller species that don't have, that can't survive within a woodlotted area, they're actually looking for this type of habitat. And that's why we actually need it on the landscape. So I'm not disagreeing with it either. About the location in terms of it being that close to a road.
Centennial is extremely close.
And some of the other tall grass prairies in the maintenance plan, there's a burn. Being where this one is, that wouldn't be an option, so there'd have to be another maintenance plan for this specific one, I guess.
I have no notes on maintenance plans, but I would concur with that.
Other than, they did say something about mowing it to a specified height, but that's the only thing I heard in there.
To control the weeds and the woody debris.
Yeah, so not really to control height.
The only other thing I would add is you know, this site is unique because not a lot of other landowners would have this amount of acreage to put to this type of habitat. That's the other thing that makes it unique.
So I'm hearing there's questions about maintenance.
There's other ways, that was just one question I thought. It is unique, it does provide nice habitat, so